or the mastermind of an elaborate publicity scam? Milan, in the north of Italy, is a city of discovery, a bustling hub of innovation, finance, and above all, fashion. Down every cobblestone street, there's another model seduced by the illusion of catwalks and couture. Chloe Ayling was lured here on the promise of fame, but the recognition she's received is not the kind she expected. Are you comfortable coming back?
I am a bit nervous because you don't know who's around you. It could be anyone that will just recognise me. It could be someone that hates me, and it could just stuff happens, and like attacks on the street. It's not 100% safe. As you'll see, Chloe's story is so peculiar, so out there, many people question if she's even telling the truth. The 20-year-old says she was abducted and drugged by two men, claiming to be part of a notorious and violent crime gang. Their plan was to sell her as a sex slave to the highest bidder. My life is in the hands of these two people who I don't know, like what's going to happen to me, I just didn't know. So I was like, well, I'm going to die, like I'm not going to come out of this alive.
Somehow, Chloe did come out alive.
When you saw that syringe in his hand, absolute panic.
And with her freedom, she's revealed extraordinary details
offered up for sale as a sex slave
of what is surely one of the world's most bizarre abductions.
I've been through a terrifying experience. I feared for my life.
That's assuming, of course, you believe her. So tonight, you decide.
Why you would lie to the police about such a key
I just
thing?
brushed it off.
Was Chloe Ayling really kidnapped? Or was it all just a publicity stunt? Is she an innocent victim or a calculating villain?
Something's gone very wrong. Whether or not she is telling the whole truth, whether or not they are telling the whole truth, or whether perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, really lies at the heart of the fascination with this case.
This very strange story begins in Colston, South London, where Chloe Ayling lived with her mum and 2-year-old son, Ashton. It's a world away from the glitz and glamour of the fashion industry. But back in 2016, Chloe was determined to make it as a model. So she signed on with well-known agent Phil Green. Was she a popular model?
She certainly was. In fact, I think she was probably the most popular model in the agency.
Did she ever talk to you about increasing her profile?
All the time, yeah. She took the view that if a job gave her additional followers on social media, she would take that over receiving a fee.
What sort of work did you usually book her for?
Essentially, she was a glamour model. We have a newspaper in the UK called the Daily Star, and people buy it just to look at the pastry girl. She was one of perhaps 10 or 12 girls that regularly appear in the paper.
Green quickly noticed her potential and began to book Chloe on international jobs. In April last year, he received an email from a man called Andre, who wanted Chloe for a photo shoot in Paris. That assignment would be the first twist in this baffling tale, because when she showed up for the job, Andre abruptly cancelled it and rebooked it for 3 months later in Milan. The original booking with this photographer called Andre.
Yeah.
Did you check his credentials?
Absolutely. I asked him, right, does he have a studio? How long has he been operating? What is this job for? Can you show me samples of other work that you've done?
This is all over the phone.
Yeah, and by email.
You were satisfied then that he was the real deal?
He ticks every box in terms of every straightforward question I would ask virtually every new client.
Even though in the end he wasn't?
Even though in the end he wasn't, yeah.
In July, when the Milan photo shoot came up, an unsuspecting Chloe arrived at this inconspicuous building. She thought it was Andre's studio, but it was empty.
About to put my hand on the door that said studio just to open it to check if anyone was there, and that's when I was attacked from behind. One person put his arm around my neck and the other hand with a glove on my mouth and my nose, and another masked man rushed in front of me and held a syringe to my arm. Obviously I was trying to fight back because I didn't want that to go into my arm. I was trying to make a fuss, but I can't fight off two grown men, so they managed to get the syringe into my wrist. And then I was unconscious.
What were you injected with?
Ketamine.
Ketamine can be a party drug though, can't it? Have you ever had it before?
No. No, I don't do drugs. I don't even drink, really.
We now know the masked men were two Polish-born brothers, 30-year-old Lucas Herber and 36-year-old Michael Herber. The brothers allegedly gagged and handcuffed the unconscious Chloe, zipped her into a duffel bag and threw her into the boot of their car. They then drove to a secluded farmhouse outside Milan.
I opened my eyes and I have like restriction on my mouth. Like I didn't know what it was at first. I had hands in my handcuffs and I was like trying to feel where I am. I heard the engine, so I knew I was in a moving car. I was shouting driver, driver, like as loud as I could.
They told you to what? Be quiet?
They didn't say anything.
Didn't say a word?
Not a word.
This is the farmhouse where Chloe was kept hostage for 6 days. It's an extremely isolated spot up in the mountains, almost 3 hours' drive from Milan. It's also where, she says, the Herber brothers set up an atmosphere of fear and intimidation to make her believe that they were operating under the instructions from a Romanian gang, who in turn were taking their orders from the shadowy Black Death group on the dark web. Black Death is a ruthless crime gang, known for dealing weapons and drugs. But having buxom blonde glamour models abducted seemed to be a new venture for them. Did they say anything to you about the main motivation?
It was to sell me as a sex slave. The auction was supposed to be on Sunday and the starting bid was a $300,000 ransom.
Why do you think they did target you in the first place?
I don't know why they specifically asked for me.
Do you think they may have found you on social media, or is that what
I guess so. I guess Instagram. Maybe they wanted someone with like a large following, or maybe they thought that would get them the ransom they wanted.
Chloe says the Herber brothers, working for the Black Death group, kept her shackled to a chest of drawers in the main bedroom of the farmhouse. The plan was to auction her off as a sex slave, with prospective buyers bidding for Chloe through the dark web. But for such a detailed scheme, extraordinarily, the brothers missed one crucial detail. They said they made a mistake, didn't they?
Yes.
Because when they found out you had a little boy,
Yeah.
a child, then it was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, it's not that they wanted me to be with my son, it's the fact that it devalues women if you've already had a child.
So in terms of a sex slave, if you've had a baby, it's not much good for trade.
Yes.
They went to a lot of trouble to get you.
Yeah, I know, it was like must have been months of planning and all the money that it cost.
There are photos of you and your little boy on your Instagram account.
And pregnant, yeah.
And pregnant.
Yeah.
So if they worked everything else out, how come they made such a basic mistake?
Yeah, they said, well, Lucas said that he didn't scroll down enough to see the pictures because they were from way back.
So they did all that other planning, but
That's what
they
he said,
didn't
yeah.
scroll down the Instagram account enough.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe says the kidnappers discarded their plan to auction her off when they discovered she was a mother. The Herber brothers simply didn't think they could make any money.
I am sure that this experience, properly exposed to the media, will kickstart her career.
Instead, they came up with an even stranger idea. They emailed Chloe's agent, Phil Green, demanding cash for her release, but also suggesting he could profit by selling her story. Well, that's bizarre, isn't it? What sort of kidnapper talks about a media career for their abductee?
Exactly, yes. I'm sorry I've kidnapped you, but this would actually do you a lot of good.
But it gets more inexplicable. To prove the threats to harm Chloe were serious, the brothers sent Phil Green specific information about themselves and the crime gang they were working for. They're very detailed, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they give email addresses for the Black Death group, phone number, contacts.
Whoever wrote them has watched far too many bad Hollywood movies.
I think so, yeah.
3 hours outside Milan is the farmhouse where 20-year-old glamour model Chloe Ayling says she was held hostage by two kidnappers, Lucas and Michael Herber, who were working for the notorious Black Death Gang. The original plan had been to sell her as a sex slave to the highest bidder.
Okay, so this is it.
Yes, this is a kitchen and the bedroom upstairs.
But the abductors were foiled when they discovered she was a mother and wouldn't make them as much money.
So this is where she stayed, where they kept her?
Yes,
And
and I came
they shackled her
the shackle of
in the bedroom?
Yes.
Can you show me?
Yes.
7 months ago, Fabrizio Prati rented his home to Michael Herber, who claimed to be an artist looking for an isolated spot to work.
This is where she slept.
UK.
Handcuffed.
Handcuffed this.
Fabrizio, with a young woman handcuffed to this chest, were there any screams? Did the neighbours hear any screams?
Non hanno sentito niente.
No, they hadn't heard anything, nothing out of the ordinary, and everything was quiet.
But after a couple of days of being chained up, Chloe says things suddenly changed with Lucas Herber. She says he seemed to take pity on her. He took her to the local village, and on one occasion even went shoe shopping with her, where they were caught on CCTV walking hand in hand.
Did the neighbours notice anything at all? Did they see them?
I vicini pensavano che fossero una
They
coppia.
saw them eating, doing the shopping, as if they lived together normally, a couple on holidays. Seeing them do the shopping, take the shopping inside together, eating pizza in the garden, for them, it was totally normal. They could never have imagined what we discovered later.
One of the witnesses in the village said that you looked very comfortable, that you were sort of sharing a few laughs with him while you were shopping.
I wasn't laughing, we were just walking.
When you were in the shop, couldn't you have just made a run for it with people around you?
No, because there was still, he said, Black Death agents are nearby, they're watching you. He was armed at all times. He made me believe that even if I managed to escape, I would still be killed. I had to go about this the right way.
Why did you believe him?
He was just so convincing in everything he would say. Like, if I'd ask him a question about anything, he would answer in so much depth, no hesitation at all.
But Chloe had her own plan. And after 6 days in captivity, she'd established enough rapport with Lucas Herber, she was able to charm him into an extraordinary undertaking. He agreed to set her free, even before any ransom money was paid.
Was there a relationship between you and Lucas?
Not sexually, no, but I had to say, right, well, after I'm released, I promise that I'll do that and I'll meet you and stuff. So I gave him that hope, and then that's why he really trusted me and I guess set me free.
Effectively, then, you tried to make him fall in love with you
Yes,
in order to survive.
yes, everything I did was to survive.
When Chloe was set free, Lucas Herber brought her here to the British consulate. She was under instructions to identify him only as her friend, which she did. He also released her on the condition that when she get back to the UK, she find a way to pay him £50,000 or be killed. But here's where the story takes another strange twist. Turns out they got here too early. The consulate wasn't open, so they calmly popped in next door for a nice breakfast. First, he said, I'm going to release you, I'm going to set you free, but just before I do that, I'll just go and get some bacon and eggs.
I don't think he ate, he just had a juice. I can't remember,
It's very strange.
you know.
Why would your abductor go to all that trouble to kidnap you and then simply hand you in?
Because he still demanded money from me on my release.
But he wasn't getting any money.
But I was supposed to pay it within a month. I was literally like stressing about how am I going to pay this money, and that even when I was in the Italian police station, I was thinking, why am I answering these questions when that was my role not to? Like,
But what sort of kidnapper releases their victim and puts them on some sort of honour system to pay the money back when they get home?
because I was so brainwashed into thinking that if I don't do it, I'm just going to die. That was my mindset. I had to do it, otherwise I would just not come out alive.
Why didn't you tell the Italian police that you'd been shoe shopping with one of your abductors?
Well, I brushed it off at first because this interview was 15 hours at the police, so I was just super tired.
But when you say brushed it off,
I just said I don't know.
is that a euphemism for lying by omission?
No, I just said I don't know.
Chloe, that's a pretty important point, though, isn't it?
What do you mean?
To go shoe shopping with the person who kidnapped you. I mean, I've heard of Stockholm Syndrome. I've never heard of shoe shopping syndrome.
Yeah, I know.
No surprises, Lucas Herber was arrested on the spot and was joined soon after in police custody by his brother. But with Michael Herber's capture, this case took another turn. He claimed Chloe was in on the whole thing right from the start, a grand plan to make easy money. In fact, Lucas and Chloe had become Facebook friends way back in 2015.
So she's given various accounts.
And according to Michael's lawyer, George Hepburn Scott, together they were the masterminds of this strange publicity stunt.
What does he say, Michael? Does he say he's completely innocent?
He says he's completely innocent. He says that he met her with his brother. She appeared to be perfectly free. She appeared to be relaxed, happy. He said in his statement that she appeared to be an attention seeker. But for the short period of time that he was with them both, she seemed completely happy and relaxed and no difficulties.
If you believe his story, then how do you explain Chloe's story?
What I can say is that there are a number of anomalies that make it, at the very least, an extremely unusual kidnapping situation. If this were to go to trial in England, I think there'd be an enormous amount of cross-examination material for her, an enormous amount for a jury to consider as to whether or not they are satisfied so that they're sure that this crime actually did take place.
Michael now says it was a normal relationship between you and Lucas.
What do you mean a normal relationship?
Well, there was no kidnapping plan, plot. It never happened. The last time he saw you and Lucas together, it was just a normal relationship.
That doesn't even make sense.
That's not true.
No, not true.
After she was released, Chloe returned home to England and was quick to call a press conference on her front lawn.
To say anything further until I've been debriefed.
The world expected to see a traumatized, fragile victim, but what they got was a flashy, unflappable publicity hound.
Here, this woman's first-hand account.
I think we're perfectly entitled to ask you difficult
Yeah, that's
questions.
fine. I can answer all of them.
The increase in your profile,
Yeah.
the increase in publicity plays into people's skepticism, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. If I was just like a normal-looking older woman, then I would be getting sympathy and everything. But because I look how I do and I do glamour, then people automatically would associate that with publicity. So it's not fair.
The very first ransom demand mentioned the fact that this whole episode would increase your media profile and kickstart your career.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that.
That line has led to other people thinking that you were part and parcel of this.
People are questioning me for his tactics, and I don't know how his mind works and what his intention was. So,
Well, because they think you're in cahoots with him,
but I'm not.
not as his victim.
No,
But you categorically say that didn't happen.
did not happen.
I am confident that I do believe Chloe, although she was the story was unbelievable at the beginning.
In Italy, the trial of the Herber brothers has begun. Who to believe has divided the country. But according to Chloe's lawyer, Francesco Pesci, she has managed to persuade the only people who really matter in this baffling tale.
The prosecution is convinced of her story.
Of all the crimes you could commit in Italy, kidnapping is one of the worst.
It is, yes.
And the penalties are severe.
In this case, it's 20 to 25 years, and it will be easier to get away with murder than kidnapping.
If I'm sitting here thinking Chloe Ayling's lying, I'm also thinking, why would you lie in order to put two innocent men in jail
Exactly.
for a long time?
I know, it doesn't make sense.
Are you certain these brothers are guilty?
Certain, yeah,
100%.
100%.
If they're found guilty, they'll be locked up for a long time.
Well, so they deserve it.
Being the victim of a headline-grabbing abduction has already proven very lucrative for Chloe Ayling. She's been offered jobs worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The interview requests are piling up, and there's a book deal in the works. Perhaps we too have become pawns in Chloe's grand plan for fame and fortune. And whether it's a kidnapping gone wrong or a publicity stunt gone right, one thing's for sure. This is a story of our times.
The suggestion that you've completely made all this up, does that offend you?
It doesn't offend me, no, because I get it, like, there's people that are just picking parts of the story and they don't know, because it's such a complicated story, they don't know everything what happened and all the details, and so I see why people have doubts, because it does look, like, if it wasn't me, I would think, like, it's crazy, but it doesn't affect me, because after going through something so bad, like, the opinions of people that don't even know me or know the full story is just not going to affect me.
You think because you've survived, anything else is secondary?
Because, like, that was just so bad what I went through, that what is some opinions to me is just, it's not gonna touch me.